Okay, perfect. So I wanted to not be distracted and bada bing, bada boom. So basically, trauma is going to be released. And I wanted to talk about, I'm going to read specific questions and then I'll take any that I have time for. Okay. Okay. And also why it's kind of irresponsible. It's kind of irresponsible. Not irresponsible, it's ignorant or irresponsible the way that a lot of people teach yogas. Okay, that's how you say it in Peru. You say yoga. And if you're saying ha ha ha, you say ja ja ja. All right, so our friend wrote, "Hey Ash, thanks for getting back to me so quickly on YouTube. I wasn't sure if any of my public questions were appropriate or not. You guys can ask me whatever you want, unless you're being a fucking buster and you know it. In that case, I'm zero tolerance." And like you guys are starting to annoy me. I'm just kidding, you're not. But I can tell my sister's getting a little nervous. The 50 Cent army is on point. You guys should just stop, all of you, and just email me and speak your fucking truth because it's getting annoying. Okay. My comment: can yoga somehow release repressed memories or shame, trauma, childhood sexual abuse? Yes, yes, yes. I feel like I've healed everything but this, and I'm blocked. Would love to know your thoughts. Thank you. Okay. So, let me just address this first question. Um, we hold on to trauma, traumatic events, feelings, things that we stuff down, experiences that are unpleasant, that we don't feel safe expressing. They're held on. They're not only, there's a separate level, like when you talk about the subtle body and some scaras and stuff like that, there's a whole other level to it. Um, with like imprints and stuff on your soul. But in terms of stuff that you've experienced in this life experience, I'm going to start out with a story. Um, a woman that I know, anyway, I'm not going to say her name, obviously. So, and I kind of don't want to say this. It's not like there are that many yoga classes, I guess, that are happening so publicly, but Ashtanga yoga teachers are just notorious. From the two studios I've had, are just notorious for like really aggressive adjustments that are fucking unnecessary. Okay, I'll leave it at that. My one friend was aggressively adjusted in a Ashtanga yoga class. There's a pose. Okay, so all the poses that are in power yoga, vinyasa yoga, blah blah blah, they all come from Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga, which is the series that they do, the same poses in same order every time. What we do with power yoga and vinyasa, hatha, the proper definition of hatha is we kind of just do the same poses. We steal from the Ashtanga Vinyasa series, if you will. Excuse me. And we not only don't force the bodies into the postures that were created very literally for 12-year-old boys. Imagine the percentage of people and people's bodies that are able to get into postures that are available anatomically to 12-year-old boys. Not many. As well, so fitting the body into the pose instead of the other way around, as well as it being in a different order. So she was in a version of what you guys might know as happy baby, where you're like lying down on your back and you're holding onto both of your feet. It's a hip opening pose. But in Ashtanga, like there's this one version where you're lying down and you're on your back and it's one leg. And he like, it hurts me to think about this. Even though it's funny, the person's not a very nice person. But the story of it, I don't wish ill on anyone. So he stepped on her, which is something that Ashtanga teachers do a lot. and adjustments in her hips. So let's talk about which chakra that is and what he did before I even tell you the disaster that happened after. So your sacral chakra is going to be your hips. Excuse me. Your sacral chakra is your hips. It's your sex organs. It's your the energies and the things that it represents are like money. The energy that is the dimension that is the second chakra is the things that are unspoken but are so powerful in ruling this experience. Sex, money, power. A person, a perfect example, and what I always just use, and whatever, doesn't matter, but a prostitute would be a person that was an example of second chakra imbalance. A homeless person would be a person that was in first chakra imbalance. That's your root chakra. That dimension is all about shelter, like very basic needs, family, shelter, food, whatever. So she's in this pose that's right. It's like the anatomy is her hip flexor and her hip. So she's lying on her back. And at this time, I think she's like maybe a 10-year student or something. Like she's not a new person to yoga. She might have had her first studio. I'm not sure. But so this position, if you think about it, he's pulling open this whole groin area, this whole hip area. And she told the story. I've heard the story like twice. Basically, she felt like a lightning bolt in her body and saw a vision of a molestation that happened when she was really, really young that she had never even, wasn't even in her consciousness. Our brains do that for a really good reason. It's like protection. You know what I mean? I remember, I'll never forget being at an AA meeting, and this woman didn't do yoga to my knowledge, but this was like 2011. She was like 50 or 55, something like this, and had been sober for like 20 years. I think it resonated because she was really close to her dad. The molestation part, no. She was very close to her father her whole life. And then her father died and she took care of him while he died. And she realized, like, at 50, like 10 years after he died, and like 15 years into being sober, that he had molested her like the first like 10 years of her life or some like crazy shit. So, and when she talked about it, and to my knowledge, she wasn't a doctor, she knew, and I always say God, and so much is in the rooms of AA and all recovery, but she was like, my brain knew that I would not have been able. She was still healing from understanding it 10 years after her dad went to heaven, you know? It was such a mind fuck that, there's so many examples of that. I'm trying to think of another one, like when kidnappers or kidnappees like don't leave their kidnappers, whatever, Hodgkin something. That's a different thing. Sorry. Meganslaw.com. That's different too. Anyway, so she had a situation that was really unfortunate because I can't even imagine being like, 35. Okay, now moving back to my old person that I knew that had this experience with the hip opening, right? With the Ashtanga teacher. So, good catch. So she was like in a yoga room and like completely vulnerable on her back. And this person did this like aggressive adjustment that it pushed open a part of her hip, especially for women. We hold trauma, drama, repressed stuff in our hips and our chests and our shoulders. If your shoulders are tight, your hips are probably tight. If your hips are tight, shoulders probably tight. Blah, 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 blah. So Another story comes to mind, and what was doesn't really exist as it did as in the way that it did. Anusara yoga by a guy named John Friend. And he completely exploited all this knowledge of the body and knowing how doing lots of back bend and hip opening leaves people really vulnerable. Habibti! So basically, what happens is he designs all these. Anusara yoga is basically just Ashtanga Vinyasa or power yoga with extra back bends. Instead of every time you come up, like a normal sun salutation, you inhale your arms up, you exhale down. He would inhale up, exhale, hold, inhale. It was always let the chest shine or some bullshit. All the teachers said the same thing. That was weird and cultish to me. And it was like a mini back bend, which first of all, half the teachers did not remind people to engage their belly first. So people were like, why am I lower back hurting? I don't know, because you're going like that. Sorry, some things are just so simple. But so he designed all of his sequences to have back bends. Like anywhere he inserted, like he basically just took power yoga and inserted a shit ton of back bends. I mentioned this story before, and I'll just quickly say how for many months I was taking the Sanisura class at 6 o'clock in Santa Monica because I would teach at 7:30 at the same studio, and it just made sense traffic-wise for me to go there at 4 and drive an hour instead of try to fight hour traffic for 2 hours, whatever. And every Monday night, I was driving home from Santa Monica after my class, which ended at 9, back to Hollywood, like, like crying hysterically. Like, why the fuck am I crying hysterically? And like noticing, like, why is it every Monday night? And then it's like these heart openers are like letting all this shit out. So it's a really important topic because if you're new to yoga, be aware that when you feel a little bit vulnerable after practice, that's just something that's come up and left your body. I can't tell you how many times in 2 different yoga schools, teaching yoga all over the world to every demographic of person that you can imagine, people will say, actually, is it normal that I cry? I would like, and then like pigeon, for example, is a pose where you take your knee, hey there, you take your knee and you kind of rest on it on a lying down position and you breathe into your hip. So that being held for, I was Sean Korn was a teacher that was famous for holding us in pigeon for like fuck breaths. It was like 10 minutes. I remember one time at the Standard Hotel, H2O, she was teaching, and I was like, fuck this. I want to leave. I want to leave so bad. Who does this to a person? 10 minutes into my hip, so much stuff came up, so much anger, so much like, I was like, I can't leave. She's like my teacher's teacher, N-word H2O, and all my students are here too, you know? But, so what teachers should say more? Like, so when at least I could think of, I can right now flash 50 faces in 16 years of teaching yoga. Ashley, is it normal that I cry after yoga like almost every time? And the more they come, the more they cry. I think there's like this period. I used to say, because this is what my teacher would say to me, yeah, that means it's working. But I realized how many things I said that my teacher said to me that I would say to people that I didn't totally understand when he said to me. I was like, Ashley, why don't you back that up with a little bit of like, I don't know, padding? Like, yeah, that's true. But why is that true? And I was like, oh, then, what I came up with was, my version of what I feel is the experience is that's just painness, weakness, painish slash weakness leaving your body. And I'd be like, I'd like the ones that would say that to me because I was mop the floor after class, I'd be like, get out of here, faster, faster now. I'll mop it up for you, you know? Another thing I wanted to share with you, I've studied Qigong a lot, not as much as martial arts, but I found Qigong like around the time I found martial arts before yoga, like 2000. Nice. 2008. There's a way that you make sure you have your window open when you do it. My window's not open now, so I'm not going to do the full thing. I'm just going to show you the, what do you call it? The visual. You just, from your gut, which makes so much more sense to me now because you're pulling it from your vagus nerve. Anything that's bothering you or upsetting you, like my contact lenses, I'm going to send them to my gut. No, I'm just kidding. But you make a ball and you focus on your own by a window and open the window. Focus on your own. Don't let there be wrinkles on your face. Don't let it matter too much. Just know that you're making like a ball of energy of anything that's inside of you that does not serve. And then you throw it out of the window. Let me get to the questions. I mean, the more specific ones. Hi, Angela. Would love to know more about yoga. Thank you, Ashley. I know I'm like a sponge. I really appreciate people who appreciate my information, to be honest. Like almost every boyfriend or guy I've dated, it's like funny when I start talking about yoga, they're just like they either are like I don't know. I can't tell. Like I feel like half of them are bullshitters when they've said to me, "I love it when you talk about yoga." Really? That's when I talk the most. Okay. So I hope I answered that. Absolutely trauma. Okay, not only can yoga release shame and trauma, it will and does. Nice fucking catch again. It will and does from childhood and all times, stages of your life, sexual and all other kinds of trauma. Okay. So the person, I'm not going to say his name, it is out of respect for them. I feel like I've healed everything but this and I'm blocked. I repeat, if you say so. How about I feel like I've healed everything but this and I'm really looking forward to healing this because it's felt difficult. There's no block, there's no stuck. One time someone told me you're stuck. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm never stuck. I will never be stuck in my life. I might be a homeless prostitute right now, but I am not stuck. Okay. So I said, yeah, let me know. I'm going to make a video, write some questions. So she wrote, okay, I'm interested in poses that could help. So by help, what do you mean? Just know that they're all going to be helpful. If you're opening up your chest, which will be the family of back bends, it'll be cobra pose, camel pose, upward facing dog. I'll write some back bends if I remember tonight. Full back bend, half bridge. Those are all heart openers. That's what Anusara did. That's why I was always crying on the way home from that from Santa Monica on Monday nights because I had taken the Anusara class, opened up my heart, taught my class, and then I had all this. I was just like a kind of a wide open nerve. So just be aware. I would suggest of just kind of zipping yourself up, knowing that you've worked through something that didn't require your thinking mind, because some of the most important, and I would argue the most important things, battles you will win in your life, victories that you will claim, will be within you and without your thinking mind at all. I think I lost train of thought. Sorry, my right contact is a theme of this week. So just know that like for Shavasana, especially after I would do back bends, like some of my longer classes, I'd be like, you guys, we're gonna do like back bending. Do something else if you want. If you want to do back bending, these would be like a group of advanced students. But I made sure the Shavasana was long. I'd be like, okay, like a warrior, you're gonna so cheesy. You're gonna zip up your armor, and everything that has been released is now gone, and you have this new set of circumstances. And that's literally what you have. However, whether you cry on the mat or not, however deep or shallow you stay in your physical yoga practice, if you're breathing, moving your body, and intentionally focusing on certain areas, your body's going to, you're going to release things and you're going to feel better. There's going to be a process. There's going to be a cleansing. Okay. Drop it. Oh, good boy. So close, beans. Okay. So when you ask help, and then hip for women, but just being safe afterwards, okay? Hip openers for women, warrior 2. I think women also need and I think I would say if I could return the tape, and I'll never do that, but I'll always say if I could reverse and I put this first, grounding poses, standing in the same place, like just even mountain pose, like standing tall on 2 feet, grounded, balancing pose, tree pose, bringing one foot to the inside of the left, like feeling your feet connected to the motherfucking earth. Do you know what I'm saying? Can repressed memories be released from a very, very young age? Yes. I remember being in a crib 2+, but I have a memory of my dad holding me, but I felt scared, but I can't understand what happened at that time. The only thing I'll say is I don't think we should assume the worst. It could have just been that I don't know why this popped into my head, and I'm not psychic, but like maybe he could have slipped and like you felt the fear that he fell. Maybe you guys both fell or something, maybe your mom came in and screamed. As a child, like especially years 1 through 7, we're like sponges bringing everything in. So anything tumultuous could be translated to like a baby's senses as scary, and thus a memory could be so. If you have no other odd memory about your father, I would never ever think anything that maybe even like a fire alarm went off or smoke detector, who knows. Like your brain could have attached anything to that if it was just that one thing. Okay. How do you know trauma is being released? Because I've done it. I can tell you from experience. I can tell you also from Habibti. I can tell you also from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Bessel Van. I'll write his name down here. So his book, The Body Keeps the Score, which outsold the DSM-5. He's like the leader in trauma. He said, so he was the first man to do a study on trauma and yoga. Habibtis! I'll teach you Arabic next time. Habibi is I love you, but to a man. Habibti is I love you to a woman. I have 2 boys, but he's so cute. He's like Habibti, I didn't lose my train of thought, did I? What was I just saying? Oh my gosh, what was I just saying? Angela? What story was I telling? It was about yoga, Mahaba. Hi, Mary. What was I just telling before I threw the ball the last time? Shit. I'll remember it. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. Sorry. So he's the first guy that ever studied the effects of yoga in healing trauma. And he didn't take, first of all the medical trials for things like Lexapro and Wellbutrin, things like that, are done in studies. These people usually have to have like addresses and homes, stuff like that. Like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, he didn't care who, he's still amazing and still doing amazing work. He took the kind of subjects, or he said, these are the people that wouldn't make it into test trials. 4 sessions of yoga, he saw a dramatic difference. any medication in 40 years, he still stands by it, that yoga is the most effective treatment for trauma. And here's why. Trauma and the effects that it has on the reorganization of your brain at Habibtis. Halas. That means that's it. Halas. 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 So, when you have a traumatized brain, your brain reprioritizes things. So other things it has to make important, like sounds and noises around you, like if someone touches you, all kinds of different things. Okay, instead of like digestion, happiness, like other things, right? So your brain has to reorganize itself to function properly amidst either a sustained traumatic situation or to get over or recover, heal from a very traumatic incident, right? It's very hard once the brain has done that. And the biggest part of like my healing my brain and stuff is, and it's ironical as fuck for me because I've been teaching this stuff for so long, but staying present, because the brain has all these other ideas, especially the rewiring of the limbic system, about what's important. And what's important will always and ever just be being here and safe now. Breathing deeply, freely, and safely now. Sustaining clarity here, and keeping both feet on the ground. For someone to be in either a sustained traumatic situation or one traumatic event, time is scary. Because things become unpredictable and your brain starts to sort of manage time differently. So one of the most amazing things and tools that, like holding a pose for 5 breaths, for example, or 7 breaths, whatever, and breathing in and counting that breath. Okay, I'm going to be here for 5 breaths, but then I'm out. What happens when you are a victim of sexual abuse, physical abuse, narcissistic abuse, any kind of abuse, you become afraid of yourself and afraid of what's next. Also, afraid of being in your body at all. When I was a homeless prostitute, it was much easier to be out of my body than to be in my body and my reality. So holding and breathing, telling my brain, 7 breaths, I'm here holding this pose that kind of makes my legs burn, that kind of makes my hips feel something that I don't necessarily want to feel. I mean, I have a whole new relationship and like rehealing of my body in the last 3 years, which is, it's like I always knew that yoga would be with me forever, but yeah, I can do that. Don't talk to me about fucking lunch, but I can do 7 breaths, and then 7 breaths can become 20 minutes of yoga. It can become an hour of yoga. It can become an hour of yoga committed every day, plus, like it just becomes, and like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who's a doctor with lots of MDs, unlike me, and written a book that outsold the DSM-5, which is the diagnostics like Bible for psychiatrists, and also someone that I just respect very much as a person. From my experience and his authority and his what is it? His statement or his conclusion that yoga is absolutely the most effective treatment for trauma, period, more than any medication. He fights the whole big pharma like transition to psychological or psychiatric care and thus diagnostics in the last 20 or so years. Sloan, I love you. I can't believe Sloane's on my live. Well, I was actually going to get off now. I love you so much. I don't even know if you're still here. I will stay here if you want to do breathing. But okay, so the intro was that, what was the intro? The intro was that yoga is a system designed to discipline you from your thinking mind. There's no important decision that's that important that will happen here. It will always happen here. Okay? And then yoga poses. So when you ask helpful, they're all helpful. Anything you do with your body when you're moving it and you're breathing it is helpful. Sustained attention on areas like for women to release trauma, sustained areas like the hips, like holding positions. Like if you don't know what pigeon pose is, I kind of demonstrated it, but you can lie down like this, just like cross one knee over and just kind of close your eyes and find that place. The knee is a ball and socket joint. So the best, it's meant to just go up and down. This is a not perfect position for it, but flex your foot to keep it safe, that socket, the knee. And then find that place where you can just breathe like a bubble deep into the hips and out of the hips, and you're going to feel some stuff. I don't think, let me think about this. Maybe like 20 women have not, in 16 years, I'm telling you, about 80% of women that take my class, it's not just me, they're doing the poses, they're breathing. They're like, why am I crying? It's stuff that we've held, you know? So when I guess I'm just being like overprotective when I say, like, yeah, hip openers, heart openers, but do them with like, okay, I'll have an hour to zip myself up and stay home and feel safe or whatever after, you know? I wouldn't ever recommend, and that's, I think, what can be has probably been confusing. I don't know. I've just thought about this, but in the last like decade, is people like popping into Anusara classes. Think of me. I was teaching like 8 or 9 years at this time when I'm taking this Anusara class. Like, I had no idea why. I was like, it was all this stuff coming out. So back bends are effective and super, to answer the question, helpful to releasing trauma and stuff in the heart. But just make sure that you're not going to like go run and do errands or something after. I wouldn't recommend like going to the market or checking social media or anything, like you've opened up your heart. So give it time. They call the third eye chakra, I've talked about this a lot. Third eye point is the attention hungry chakra. It likes attention. So it's very good to focus on it, to meditate on it. So some people call it the seat of your consciousness. Your heart chakra, they call it the shy chakra. Isn't that sweet? So it's shy and it's also fragile. So take care of it, Um, let's see if I didn't answer any other question. So helpful, yes. Anything that you can feel in the second chakra area, in the heart shoulder chakra area, in the throat chakra area, and you do with breath and intention is going to be helpful. Just please make sure that you're mindful to let it go, to go to your room and cuddle or do a meditation or feel safe and let it go. Legit. It doesn't stick around you. Better yet, like Sloan always says, I don't know if she's here, go take a salt bath. Himalayan salt, you can get it easy anywhere. It makes your skin so soft. It's great to use on your face. Coconut oil is the best. The best. You can just kind of wash your face with it. You just kind of do everything with it. Okay. So there's one more email. Have you noticed changes in your clients afterwards? Yes. I mean, here's the change that always happens. People get happier. They feel better in their bodies and they look better in their bodies. Do clients ever cry? Yes, I think I covered that. I don't understand what's happening, or is it obvious? I think I covered that. If not, email me. I love you guys. Mwah! I can't believe Sloan was here. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I was thinking the whole time, Sloan, I hope Sloan's not on because I'll be annoyed. I would hate to miss you. I love you. Mwah. Bye, guys. If you guys ever want to send me questions, I'll be happy to do this. Bye.